Dr. Joseph Martin. Technology, blessing or bane, deliverance or death. Technology. Well, this is one of the most important topics we could ever discuss. This is simply an introduction to the whole concourse that we'll be going through over the next few years, probably. I have many things I'd like to share with you on this topic. Much of it from my early teen years and 20 years when I studied with Buckminster or Bucky Fuller and all that he had to say on technology and the pros and cons for our individuals and society in the centuries to come. And with Jacques Ellul, who wrote The Technological Society, and of course my studies with Marshall McLuhan, the great Canadian technological specialist, and the effects of technological media and advertising on human consciousness and society. Now, we're not the only species on planet Earth that has been able to use some technology. Birds can pick up twigs in their beaks and make little thatched kind of homes for themselves. And chimpanzees, we know, can use sticks and other things to get termites out of termite holes to lick them off, and so on. But in terms of massive use of technology and innovation and creativity, human species are the only ones that seem to be able to use this in an incredible way and have developed it to a great extent. Now, anthropologists have a lot to say about the pros and cons of technology in the history and the evolution of human societies. I will go into this in further videos, but just to say now that there's always two sides to everything, and this is exactly what this series on technology is about. The pros and cons of this. When we moved into an agricultural kind of experience socially and then into the industrial age, of course, there's lots of changes that have come to us, and that will be the subject for another set of videos. I just want to say, though, that let's look at the early history of human species. There is a lot of hidden history in what needs to come to consciousness right now. Being an historian of science and technology and a philosopher of science and technology, and did some training at the IHPST at the University of Toronto, and my own vast reading on this topic, beyond what's taught at academic institutions worldwide. And I feel it's important to read the books by Zecharia Sitchin, who has a lot to say, all based on early science that he's found cuneiform tablets, Sumeria and Babylon and so on, to show that we need to rewrite history completely now in terms of our ancient societies from a few thousand years ago. There's evidence in all his books of extraterrestrial invitations or exploration here on planet Earth and other planets in our solar system by a group called the Anunnaki. Now, I'm suggesting to you scientists out there who are academics like myself to be a little more open-minded about this and actually go back and study the ancient materials that we now have available in archaeological museums around the world, and read the text and see what you make of it with an open mind. Now, we know that from Leonardo's drawings, and we know from Plato's records, that there were some other technological innovations in Atlantis back 5 to 10 or 20,000 years ago, a series of technological stages of innovation. Some of them were used for great advantage in the capital city of Posadia and other of the outlying cities and towns. And unfortunately, though, at the end of the Atlantean civilization, for which we have a lot of archaeological evidence, we know that the situation there was such that there was some political maneuvering and use of technology for the destruction of the entire civilization. And this did include splitting the atom and the use of nuclear warfare and nuclear bombs. So what we have now is society in time and space in the third dimension spirals up the ladder, as it were, of our evolution. We realize we have yet another chance now with similar technology here in the 21st century to what we had in the time of Atlantis, to look at this differently from a moral and ethical standpoint and a scientific standpoint and see what is good for us as human beings and what is not good for us as human beings. Part of the challenge with technology in human society or human beings is that technology seems to be outstripping our human maturation levels, meaning our consciousness is very low. Basically, we're still unconscious beings and societies. And we've created technologies or got technologies from elsewhere, from beyond planet Earth, which is, there's no question about that. This is reality. Anyone with any knowledge of what's going on presently in the military and so on will totally understand this. People who've been inside the military will tell you the same. That technology has outstripped our capacity to be human, our capacity to be moral beings, our capacity to grow up and mature emotionally and spiritually and mentally and morally. So now it's like a child with an AK-47 rifle or a Kalashnikov, a 4-year-old. You know, at some point it's just going to pull the trigger and it doesn't even know what it's doing. It's just for fun or games and thinking it's some kind of a video game. We still treat other people on the planet that way, and that's probably part of our bane. We need to create a blessing with technology. We need to deliver ourselves from our spiritual morass and our emotional stupidity and really grow up so we can make good use of technology. There's nothing wrong with technology at all. It's not something that needs to be have a value placed on it that's good or bad. That's not the case. It's what human beings who are the ones who create and use technology, it's whether or not we can use them for good or for evil purposes. That's the whole point of this series on technology. Now, so the pros for technology, well, we have a better medical system and health system. We can analyze things with computers and you can monitor all the things that go on in our health and make sure that things are going to move forward in a positive way. Of course, surgery and emerge is very important in all the technology that we have to keep people alive or bring them back from the dead when they come in. These are all important things. And also we have ease and speed of um, technology now for the World Wide Web. For instance, we have YouTube now, so we can speed up the process of disseminating information worldwide across the planet in a wireless way, and this is a good thing. Travel, we can travel faster and easier anywhere in the world with planes and so on, cars and so on. There's questions whether or not how long that will last, but for now, this is where we're at. So there's seemingly technology gives us a lot of ease and extra time, and that's the purpose for it. It has had its bane in existence when it started. It's created a class society where those in power, the landlords, the wealthy, the nobles, were able to outstrip in wealth and prestige and power or force all the lower class that they employed in their industrial factories and so on. This has not changed. It's only gotten worse in the last 200 years of industrialization and post-industrialization. So this is a bit of a challenge, I would say, for most of us who are employed in these kinds of business and maybe not even the owners of the business. So the class society and the caste society, these are issues now. But let's just look at the cons from a social perspective, and of course, you know, with the splitting of the atom and the nuclear bomb, yet again here in the history of our species, we did use it in the Second World War, it put an end to the war, and it killed millions of people. We also know that that kind of technology and other kinds of technology, including negative electromagnetic frequencies, is cancer causing. So it's a huge health liability for people. A lot of the things, the pollutants, the chemicals that now go into our water, our air, and our earth, and our food, including GMOs, these are all things that have been brought about by technology. And what they are doing for certain is that they're causing cancer and premature death and actually sterility in men. So we have challenges with birth rates and so on. This is my background as a health professional for over 40 years as a clinician, as a researcher, as a medical anthropologist, And as a psychologist, and I'm very well aware with all my clients that a lot of the cancers that they had were produced by the negative effects of technology. But let's just look at it from a more psychological and spiritual perspective. Technology, although it's given us so called ease and time, it's created the loneliest and the most depressed individuals and societies on the entire planet of all time. And we are all now wearing masks. It's stopped the intimacy, the face-to-face connection. There's Facebook, there's internet, there's email and texting and so on. And people can lie and deceive themselves, and they can put on masks, and they can say things that are not true about themselves and purport to be things that and people that they are not. How do you know who you can trust in this kind of an environment, this kind of technology? These are massive social and moral and friendship issues and business issues. Who can you trust that people won't hack into your computer, steal your bank accounts, and all these things that can go on? It's given rise to a larger numbers of psychopaths and sociopaths in all levels of society, not just in business, not just in politics, not just in the military. There are people who are growing up to be tuned in and wired into their brain waves just strictly on video games and these kinds of things, and the human interaction is completely lost. These are the kinds of people that end up shooting others in their schools. And these are the kind of people that take advantage of people in business. The psychopathic tradition now with snakes in suits. That's an interesting book to look at. We have all of this material now. This is just the beginning analysis and kind of laying out some, not even all of the fields of study that we need to look at in terms of understanding technology and our own human soul and our human species. There will be more of this in the future, but I'd ask you to look at the question, who are the real human beings that are left now on the planet? Most of the TV documentaries, the TV shows for entertainment, and the movies from Hollywood and around the world with robots and clones and bionic people and so on, and Stargate when it has replicators and computers and robots and military men who are robotic who take over the world. I mean, this is a huge issue. It's been around for 40 or 50 years. It's a massive thing. There is a notion that robots are taking away our jobs for certain in the assembly lines of the industry of the world now. And there's a notion that robots eventually could take over human beings and imprison the human beings, and the whole world would be run by robots. There are so many movies and novels on this topic, far too many to mention. I'm sure a lot of you young millennials have read all these books and looked at all these animated films and all these films, these popular worldwide films on this topic. Serious issues to look at, a lot to ask yourself about, and the big question is, how human am I still, and how can I become more human and not become robotic and cloned and just a kind of banal, faceless, masked being? Anyways, be a hero and a heroine in your own life. Stay tuned. There's many great things to come to show you the how to understand technology, how to make the most of it, and how to understand where society is going and co-create a better global solution for a greater conscious, humane society. As we say, a whole group of people who are unkwe or true-hearted, true human beings in the Mohawk way. And of course, for all First Nations and Indigenous to the planet. So, all love to you. Stay tuned. Namaste. Skanagoa. The peace is great.